Me and Roger, we've done our oral presentation on the hunger in Africa, and we're going to start off with a question. So, does anybody know about the situation in Africa at the moment?
Very bad.
Yes.
Worse than that. Okay, well, you'll see, you'll learn stuff from it, and then you'll remember stuff you already know. Really quick. Well, more than half of Africa at the moment is in need of urgent food supplies. They don't have enough money or enough resources to bring in their own food or to make their own food. And so the FAO, which is the Food and Agriculture Organization, they also say that most of the countries in Africa at the moment are in need of help. Well, it's the African culture itself that's in crisis. There are more, well, the FAO, from the information we know from the FAO, they tell us that there are over 200 million people that are malnourished. And malnourished means that they don't have enough money or food to keep their body supplies intact. And the African government at the moment, they're going on about political problems in Africa, and which I find kind of strange, really, because they're leaving aside the fact that millions of people are dying from hunger, and they're saying that they have political problems. So.
Well, Africa's hunger is the consequence of series of related factors. Africa is an enormous continent, so there are a lot of countries that have the similar problem. But there are 4 critical issues. The first one would be decades of poorness in rural areas, which have little political power. There is a lot of corruption in many towns and cities in Africa. Poor government is the main issue for many African countries, and the principal issue for lack of food in the continent. Problems such as corruption and nepotism can greatly affect further contraction.
The second critical issue in Africa would be the wars and the politic conflict. In 2002, for the past 50 years, there's been 26 major wars. Well, there's been hundreds of wars, but 26 major wars where thousands and thousands of people have died. And these wars, they cause refugees. At the moment in Africa, there's 16 million refugees, which means that people that move out of their own country illegally. Also, because of wars, well, you relate back to hunger, because of wars, farmers don't want to go out and work. Like, if they know that people are dying in their towns or they hear gunshots, they're not going to want to go out and work. So food production goes down. And also, HIV is another, well, one of the biggest issues in Africa at the moment. It normally occurs in South Africa, where more than 30% of all sexually active adults are infected. It's a fact. That's millions of people infected with HIV. And it normally occurs in women, and this again, it can affect food, because the women are the people that provide much of the agriculture work. So the people that would normally go out into the fields and work, but if they have HIV, that means they can't, because they can easily get infected by
Well, another critical issue is unchecked population growth. Well, Africa's population has grown faster than any region in the world over the past 30 years, despite millions of deaths of AIDS pandemic. Between 1975 and 2005, the population grows more than doubled, reaching from 335 to 731 million, and it's currently growing at a rate of 2.2%. Well, in some parts of Africa, the land is plentiful, and this is not a problem, but in other sizes have several consequences. Farming families in Africa have to divide their land with other people and share it to plan their harvest. Badly, these families have a very small crop. It represents that 72% of all African continent is unplantable, meaning that 30% is playable, but the malnutrition has has declined over the past 30 years. The result is that a country that had self-sufficient food 50 years ago is now a country that is the major importer in the world of food. The book, The African Food Crisis, says that in less than 40 years, Africa went from being a net exporter to relying trade.
Between the late 1960s, well, first, Africa didn't always used to be as bad as it was now. Back in the late 1960s and 1970s, they were actually exporting food to other countries. But then between the late 1970s and the 1980s, they got their independence, and most of the countries in Africa. And they were very happy. Well, you know, they were happy because they got their independence, but then now what? They didn't have any money now because the people that used to own Africa were very rich, and they had no way of getting food into the country and stuff like that. So that's when people started to die of hunger in Africa. But then, and so in the late 1980s, they were exporting from 4.4 million to 10 million tons of food, which is a huge amount of food.
Thanks many charities like Oxfam, Source Children's Village, Score Ethiopia, and Rebel Africa, many children's lives have been saved. So, if these charities were to run out, this many child will die. So, if you want, one day you could give some money away. Well, we will see a video, and to finish our presentation, you can see it, and after you can do with many questions.